Question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Hughes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate the member for Dunkley for bringing this motion to the House. I'd also like to congratulate the member for Holt on his words during this motion as well. Deputy Speaker, the word Holodomor, literally translated from Ukrainian, means death by hunger, or to kill by hunger, to starve to death. And it refers specifically to the brutal famine imposed by Stalin's regime on the Soviet Ukraine and primarily ethnic Ukrainian areas in the northern Caucasus from 1932 to 1933 that claimed an estimated 7 million lives. We say 7 million quickly, Deputy Speaker. That's the entire population of the state of New South Wales that were killed in the Holodomor. In its broadest sense, the Holodomor is used to describe the Ukrainian genocide that began in 1929 with massive waves of deadly deportations of Ukraine's most successful farmers, as well as the deportations and executions of Ukraine's religious, intellectual and cultural leaders, accumulating in the devastating forced famine that killed, as I said, more than 7 million innocent individuals. And Deputy Speaker, this is just another in the long list of deaths caused by communism in the 20th century. History demonstrates that in every country that communism was tried, it resulted in poverty, massacres, starvation, terror and deaths. The Black Book of Communism puts it close to 100 million dead over the past century. 65 million in the People's Republic of China, 20 million in the Soviet Union, 2 million in Cambodia, 2 million in North Korea, 1.7 million in Ethiopia, 1.5 million in Afghanistan, 1 million in the Eastern Bloc, 1 million in Vietnam, 150,000 in Latin America, and the list goes on. Charles Alan Kors, the professor of history at the University of Pennsylvania, said of communism, and I quote, "No cause ever in the history of all humankind has produced more cold-blooded tyrants, more slaughter of the innocents, and more orphans than socialism with power. It has surpassed exponentially all other systems for the production in turning out the dead." And while, Deputy Speaker, we may never know the exact number of deaths from communism, we also must remember the poverty, the hardship, the cruelty and the torture that occurred under communist regimes. And Deputy Speaker, we ask ourselves, why does communism always fail? Why does it always end up in such terror? Deputy Speaker, I would argue that firstly, it does not appreciate the importance of incentives in the economy. It fails to understand that the wealth of economy can rise and fall, and that attempts to redistribute wealth destroy the very incentives that create it in the first place. Deputy Speaker, history has shown that communism has been nothing other than a philosophy that has destroyed millions of lives, 100 million lives. And yet in contrast, we have seen free market capitalism, Deputy Speaker, being the greatest wealth creation machine that the world has ever seen, lifting close to 1 billion people out of poverty since the fall of the Iron Curtain. And yet, Deputy Speaker, if we go to our universities today and you walk around in a campus, you are likely to spot students wearing Che Guevara t-shirts. You see protests in Melbourne with young students with a hammer and sickle emblazoned on t-shirts, walking down protesting, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, we owe it to them. We owe it to that 100 million dead, the victims of communism, to tell their story. We owe it to them to continually remind today's generation that communism is nothing other than a violent philosophy that has destroyed millions of lives. It is a death cult. We cannot trivialise it, Deputy Speaker. Again, Deputy Speaker, I thank the member for Dunkley for this motion. this important motion. It is forever important that we continue to remind today's generations of the horrors of communism and the devastation and havoc it has wreaked across the past century.